I've never relied too heavily on television. And I always said to Sylvie, this is a roller coaster, right? The day this finishes, we go. I'm not sitting here waiting for the phone call. We're going to make life an adventure. So the day The Price is Right was axed, I said, let's book that one-way ticket to LA, and we landed in LA.
Hello and welcome to Separate Bathrooms. My name's Brahe-Daddo.
I'm Daddo.
We would like to acknowledge the Gadigal People of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this great land of ours, and pay our respects to elders both past and present. We're talking to a fella today that is, well, he's like a box of Cadbury all sorts. He's just full of surprises.
Yeah, he's been part of the Aussie TV landscape since the early 80s.
He's been in the game for 40 years.
I know. He's hosted shows. He's hosted radio talkback. He's dipped his toe into almost every aspect of the entertainment business.
Yep. We're talking to author Larry Emdur about life and his new book, Happy As. Let's welcome him into the bathroom.
Welcome, Larry, to Separate Bathrooms.
Hello, guys. I like the way you say that. It's a very soft introduction.
Yes. It's very soft in the bathroom.
It's a no echo bathroom. No reverb.
This is the least echoey bathroom I've ever been in.
Singing doesn't sound that great in here.
It's
So.
very, very cushy in the bathroom.
Yeah.
We've been looking at your book. You've got your book, Happy As, and I have to say, literally from the first page, you open up the first page with this book, and it had me laughing out loud with the early praise for Happy As.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So good. I guess it is. It really is. Like, it really made me laugh out loud. And I'm like, I'm going to love this book. Like, but I hadn't even got to page one. Like, this is just the early praise, which is very clever because it's from Sylvie. It's from your wife, your sister, your mum, and your best mate, and all the comments. I won't even read them out because you have to go get it.
Well, you
yourself.
go get it, yeah. I've got to say, Larry, that we didn't have a copy. We got our copy yesterday. I had to go to 3 bookshops to get it.
Ooh, that's a
because
good
it was
sign.
sold out of the first 2.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You could have called me. I got 150 in the back of my car.
Well,
I would have just dropped that straight over to you.
yeah. Well, you're on one side and we're on the other side of the
Yeah.
bridge. So no, but I just needed to get it. So yeah, but it was out. I was like, oh, this is good.
Oh,
we
that's
can
good.
have it for you next week. We've got 10 coming in. I'm like, not going to be talking
that's-
to him tomorrow.
That's good to know.
Go, Larry.
Thank you.
That's really good. How is it doing the book tour rounds? Are you finding that different to, your usual morning show?
Absolutely. Because there's so many stories in there that are very personal, about my family. There's fun TV stuff, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of personal stuff about growing up and about Sylvie. It's nice stuff. There's nothing horrible in there, but it's weird talking about it, actually. And it was funny to write it because I wrote it in a very quiet place up a river in a cabin.
I saw your Instagram stuff when you were doing it.
Yeah, and I sit there at 4 o'clock in the morning in the dark on the balcony and write this thing. And then when you have to revisit those stories and talk about it out loud, and there's stuff in there that, my mum shouldn't know about growing up in Bondi and panel vans and this sort of stuff.
The van's
dick
rocking,
pics.
don't bother knocking.
There's a whole dick pic part in there
Oh,
too.
you can say dick pics in this mother. Okay. So there's all this stuff, and I thought, I can write that because it's like dark and no one's watching me write. And then it comes out, and then I have to do the audiobook and say dick pics and things. So I'm happy to talk about it all, and people have been very the reaction's been great.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that it's been well received, and people see it for what it is, which is just a bit of fun, a nice reflection on nicer times, happier times, I think, simple times.
Yeah.
So it's been a joy to actually, generally get out there and retell the stories. There's a couple in there that I wish I never wrote, but that's
really? You
well, I'm happy to have written, but I just don't like
to talk about them more. Yeah, I understand that. You've got a great attention for detail about some of your childhood stuff. Cameron has the most ridiculous memory for his childhood. Last week, not so much, but
same.
his childhood stuff is unbelievable. Like he said, oh yeah, and he wore this shirt, and I remember, and the top button was missing all the time. But I was like, how do you remember that stuff? My memory from my childhood is not that great. Did you have did you have assistance from your sisters and your mum on stuff like that, or you just are good with it?
Yeah, no, it's a good point because I can't remember what happened last. I can't remember what happened this morning on the morning show.
Right.
I get home from work having done the chase, and Sylvie said, "What happened on the show? Did anyone win anything?" I said, "I don't know." It was like 45 minutes ago, and I don't know.
Yeah.
But I went to Mum's house, and out of the garage I got these 2 big boxes of old photos that hadn't seen the light of day for, I don't know. I don't know if they'd ever been opened. And I saw a picture of an old Kentucky Fried Chicken surfboard. And for those people old enough to know that there was a time where with a bucket of KFC for $1 extra, you get this foamy that would rip your guts off.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but then I saw that picture, and then I could feel the pain of my nipples bleeding.
Yeah,
And so I just remembered all these things, and the story started to develop. So a lot of that stuff I got from this box of photos.
Yeah.
And I just remembered bits and pieces. I spoke to my sisters quite a bit, but we concluded early that their memories were different to mine.
Yes.
Of course.
So I've written a lot there about spending a lot of time with my dad fishing on his crappy old boat. And my sister Nikki said, "I don't remember that." I said, "Well, you weren't there. Right. That was father-son stuff."
Yeah.
That we have different memories. Our time with Dad was different. We'd go to the beach and we'd go fishing. We'd go on the boat, and that wasn't the time that he was spending with my sisters. So, and similarly, Mum's time with the girls was different to Mum's time with me. Mm. So while it was good reflection, there was actually a bit of argy-bargy. It was like, no, the boat didn't have shag pile carpet. I'm like, well, you never went on the boat because it stank of diesel and bird shit.
Yeah.
You never went on the boat. But everyone was happy to hear the stories again and reflect on that.
Our kids even disagree on stories now.
Everyone has their own
Yeah.
aspect. They come at it from their own, if it's like the beach ball, you're looking at red, yellow, green, and on the other side of the beach ball is purple, black and brown,
Yeah.
So we all have a different view of how we
Yeah.
observe
Good
a
analogy.
particular, episode. When I read the bit about the surfboard, we were all over those surfboards. My mum used to cover them with sheets, old sheets. She would stitch a bag around it.
That's clever.
So, and then we jump. So my mate had a pool down the end of the road, and we used to line them up on the side of the pool, and we'd jump on them and we'd surf. Like, you know how you wrote about you'd surf on the fiberglass board, right? That one. We'd jump on our board, and if you landed in the middle, they snapped.
That's right. That's right.
They just snapped, but the material held it together.
Yeah.
So it was like this.
So your mum made you a
penis.
cover for the board. Your mum clearly loved you more than my mum. Clearly.
Well, I don't think she liked buying us Kentucky Fried Chicken, so we only got one board per summer.
Right.
So
that
it
would
had
be
to
right,
last.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
if the board snapped inside, she'd go, "Well, that's your board. That's your board." And
That's funny.
you just had a limp board for the rest of the summer.
That's funny. See, we used to when
memory.
we'd ridden it for a little while, and your nipples were peeling off, and you had this horrible rash all over your tummy, but you still wanted another bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. So every other week you'd snap the board, so you'd have to go back up Bondi Road and get another bucket of chicken and another board.
They'd probably would be worth something now if you actually had an original.
those KFC
you know what I mean?
Worth a bomb.
Yeah.
Because I Googled a lot of this stuff online.
Right.
Yeah.
Including my own career. All those things, everything I write about, the Mini Moke that was my favourite car that I gave away for a slab of beer, they're now selling for $50,000.
Oh,
I mean, panel vans.
Yeah.
We all had panel vans. They're like 90 and 100 grand, and it's all that stuff.
It's wild, isn't it? Like the little Toyota Corollas, the original Toyota, are worth so much money.
Yeah.
They were the crappiest car
Yes.
back in the day.
Or the Datsun 180B.
Yeah.
Little dim sim on wheels, man. Those things are worth a ton. Hey, question. Just to the beginnings of the book. At what point did you decide, I'm going to write a book?
Great question. It was never on my radar at all because, as you know, I was out of school very early.
Yeah.
So I'm playing the dumb card for most of my career. I was kicked out of school very early for failing English and maths and everything. So writing has never been my friend. Reading has never absolutely been my friend. The auto cue part on the morning show and the questions on the chase scare the hell out of me.
Okay.
Right? So I can sit here and talk to you for hours, but when it comes to reading and comprehension, I'm horrible. Always have been. So I was coming up to 40 years in the business this year, and one of my bosses at work a year last year said, 40 years, you've got to do a book. And I said, well, I got nothing to say, and I hate writing, and I hate reading. I've never read a book. And then we spoke more about it, and then my manager came in, started. I wrote a couple of little things that went out to some publishers, and then HarperCollins came back and said, "We want this. We want to do this." And I thought, "Oh, now I've got to write a book." Yeah. So then it was about coming up with the stories, and there's a lot of stories I had. The TV stories, as you guys do, like when you do corporate things, they're just front of mind. You know, the people who won prizes on The Price is Right, who hated the prizes, the farting contestants, all the great TV stories. But one of the stories I wrote very early was about my dad's watch. That I don't know if you've got to yet, but it's the most.
No, I didn't see that one yet.
It's the most important part of the book for me, and it was about a watch that my dad got for his 21st birthday. I found completely by accident on my 21st birthday, and I put it on. Dad didn't even know where it was because he was into his fancy watches. So I found this old, crappy watch. I put it on and I wound it. It worked, and I never took it off, and I wore it all the time. Uh-huh. And it's about that takes us through my life. This watch sort of goes on, that I wore it for my first audition for The Price is Right, and I wore it for the first time I appeared on Hey Hey It's Saturday, and all these important, when I was going to ask Sylvie to marry me, I had my watch, it was all these important.
You had a timepiece to mark the time.
To mark the time. And then the day Jai was born, I sat in the in the hospital waiting room an hour after he was born, and I sat there and looked at this watch, and I thought, my God, do I have to give that baby this watch at his 21st birthday?
Yeah, you do.
My dad got it for his 21st. I found it on my 21st. Wow. Now do I have to hand down the magic?
Yeah.
And I burst into tears. And he was an hour old, and I was thinking 21 years in advance.
Yeah.
So this watch takes us through a lot of my life.
Yeah.
And it was the hardest chapter for me to write, hard for me to talk about actually now still. But that's the one that went out to the HarperCollins, and they came back and said, we want that. Yeah. We want more of everyone knows the Larry, the bouncy, bubbly guy and the game show guy, but we want that nostalgia and that heart and soul that we don't usually hear from you. I'm like, okay, well, I've only got one watch story. So I set out to write this book about that, about who am I? Yeah, why am I still here after 40 years? And I didn't answer. I don't know why. Right. Mate, we've bumbled my way through this business, show after silly show. Yeah. So I just tried to work out why, and on the way, do all the nostalgic stuff and where I've come from and why I'm me, I suppose.
And did you learn something about yourself as you wrote?
I learned that I've had a wonderful life. I learned that my family is I knew my family is everything. Nothing more important to me. I learned that I had a very lucky childhood, not privileged. We didn't have money, but I was lucky that my parents were loving and caring. I did learn how I've always known my dad was my late dad was really high impact in my life. But I think once I sat down to put down on paper, chapter by chapter, what he actually meant to me, and this was some hard stuff to write. It's joyful and it's nice, but it was hard to sit down and go. Dad and I were looking he wanted to live in a cabin on the river, it was just this very difficult but lovely things to write at the same time. Yeah. So I learnt that. I learnt how important my parents and the family unit. I've always, you always know this stuff. Yeah. But then when you start to do the bullet points on it, you go, wow, I was really lucky. And I know that's not everyone's story. As I've moved around the country and done interviews with this, I know not everyone has had a happy childhood with a loving family. I know that. But I feel very fortunate that it was my growing up.
You mentioned in the book that your dad's advice was be nice to everyone.
Yeah.
Was your dad nice to everyone?
Yeah. Well, from what I could see. Yeah. I was never with him at work. He might have been an asshole. Yeah. No. He was. Yeah. And he always wanted to leave people with a feeling good about him and about their meeting. He was a salesman. So nothing happens in the sales process if you're not nice. And it's pretty simple, right? And I remember coming home to him one time and I was having an issue at work and I was a young kid. So this guy's being an asshole at work. He said, just be nice. No one can be angry at you when you're nice. He said, just be nice to everyone. So I carried that with me and I've tried. It's hard in this business sometimes, a lot of assholes in this business. And they might say the same about me. But I've tried to do that. And I think it's important. And I was talking to someone, I was talking to one of the young home and away guys we were at Telethon, at Perth Telethon. And he was talking about advice, what's it like in the business and how do you survive in the business. I said, first things first, you've got to be nice to everyone. Such a small business. Everyone talks about everyone. It'll matter in every process, every part of the process, from the acting perspective, the casting, and then on set, and then how you treat people will reflect immediately how they treat you. So it's still advice that my son's in real estate. I give him that advice. Be nice to everyone. It doesn't work if you're not nice. Simple, huh?
Yeah.
Is Jai wearing the watch?
No. So on his 21st birthday, so as he'd grown up, we started talking about the watch all of the time. Yeah. And he'd always take the piss out of me. He'd go, old man, when I'm 21, I get that watch. I'm like, no. But I think you guys know Jai. He's into his flash watches. He's a real estate agent, so he's going to wear some fancy watch and no socks. And
and short pants.
Short tight pants and no socks.
Yep.
So we came to an arrangement that I didn't have to give it to him because he understood the magic for me.
For you.
Yeah, right. I found it in the back of Dad's sock drawer. I was never meant to find it. It just happened. So it called me. However, whatever it is, I'd love you to read the chapter. You'll understand the importance of it. But so in the lead up to his 21st, he said, "Dad, I understand. It's not. I don't have the magic. It's, you need it. You need it." He said it to me, which meant a lot to me. And then on his 21st birthday, when I got up and made the speech, the drunk dad speech, and I looked at him and I thought, I had the watch on, and I thought, I got to give him the watch.
This is the moment.
And I don't think I can even tell you guys this story now. But I looked at him. There was a whole bunch of people there, and I just sort of put my hand over the watch and took this big breath and went, mate, there's something I got to do. Oh. And he looked at me and he cried. Everyone's cried. Everyone who knows the story was like, is this happening? Is this happening? So I called him to the front and I gave a sort of short story of the watch story, and then I took off the watch. I said, mate, you got to have this. And everyone... That's the end of that story for me. But
it finishes. We don't even know the end of the story, and we're crying.
But it finishes the story with how special this is in all of our lives, and how he'll. I know that he doesn't wear it day to day, so it's his, but I'm minding it for him.
Yeah.
So I get to wear it on special occasions. So I would have worn it, say, the audition for The Chase, and all the big things that I do in my life, and I finish it by saying that I know. Because I wore it to my dad's funeral, and how important that moment was that I got up in the morning and I wound it and I heard every little click. And the watch that had told me it was time to walk down the aisle to marry Sylvie, and the watch that told me it was time to pick up the kids was now telling me it was time to bury my dad. And I finished that chapter by saying, I know, and this gives me great comfort, that Jai will wear it to my funeral, like it'll just be always part of us.
Yeah. Beautiful. And when you become a granddad, you'll have to make sure you have it on.
Right? Absolutely. It's there for, it's there. I would have normally wanted to say, but I didn't. But it's a very special part. Now, that's my favourite chapter, and that was a difficult one to write. Yeah. I'd write it, I'd sit down, I'd burst into tears, walk away for an hour, come back and write another chapter, then come back to this thing, and I'd go back and forth with this watch thing because I wanted it to be perfect.
Yeah.
You want it to be, reflective of how much it means to you,
Yeah, and it's hard for people to understand. And I thought, will anyone be able to relate to this watch story? And as I've moved around and my DMs, it's like when the book comes out, right? Your DMs explode and people are like, this, and this, I thought of this, and I love that, and I didn't like that. And with the watch thing, more people than I've ever thought can relate to it, because it's like, I've got my grandmother's locket, I've got my grandfather's pen, or everyone or most people have got something like the watch. So that was really special to me to hear that feedback.
Yeah, but that's when we were living in the States. My two grandfathers, both of them passed away, and it wasn't like I didn't need money from them or anything like that, but I wanted something that I knew that they liked or they loved. So I got cufflinks from my dad's dad with his, who wears cufflinks these days except realtors. Jai's probably got some, and I love wearing them. You probably wear them on all your shows, but they've got his initials on them. And then my mum's dad, I've got his gold refillable pencil,
Right.
and his notebook, and
Yeah.
I just love having that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you had, as far as feedback with the book, have you had things that, people have said, oh, I never knew that about you? Have you had
Yeah, a
and what
lot.
is that
Yeah, yeah.
people said about you?
I think the school stuff was interesting because people think because I'm a journalist, I suppose, by trade, a TV host, and the quiz show host, and I guess people think that requires some form of education, some form of smarts. Like on the Chase, we're going from like a Chinese question to a Latin question to no, I got none of this.
Just reading them, man.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, but doing it so well.
yeah.
Well, thankfully, you
You're
don't
the
have to
man.
know the answers.
Right.
But I think, I guess, that I was a high school dropout. That's of interest to people, I suppose. And maybe and I think people have forgotten, as I had until I did a bit of Googling on my career, that I've just hosted so many crap shows because that go back a long time. We're talking 40 years of doing crap shows. I'm the most axed man in television. The most axed man in
Is
television.
that right?
Yes. And that
And
comes
yet
from...
one of the most successful as well.
Well,
But being
yeah,
here
but
40 years
to be here
later.
today,
But
things
it
are-
also that also talks to grit, because you can be
Yes.
axed, and it's like, okay, fall down 7 times, get up 8.
yeah.
Right? So yeah, this is a really good thing, and that's why you're still here. That's why, you're like a barnacle.
I am like
You
a
are the
barnacle.
Australia's TV barnacle.
I'm like a filthy, disgusting, squidgy, little rubbishy barnacle.
Wow, you are a writer, aren't you? Well,
But most beloved barnacle.
That's what I'm going to call my next book.
there you go, the squidgy
I'm a
barnacle.
barnacle.
You barnacle. Hey, a question then. You've just said you're the most fired man in television. How does that go with your mental health, and what do you do to pick yourself up?
So I worked out very, very early, because my first show was a day. In fact, my first game show, my first thing out of reporting was a game show called Family Double Dare. And it was axed after the first show. So
First show of taping or first show of going to air?
first show I've got, so we'd recorded 3.
Yeah.
Halfway through the first show, I got a call from the big boss to come in, and he said, we can't put this on air anymore. So it was axed after the first show. They played out the next 2 at 10 o'clock at night or something. But what that taught me, it was a brutal lesson. But I was young and single, and it was like, okay, I'll go out to the pub with my mates. Fine, I did a show. But what it taught me was that I can't rely on this, So I've never relied too heavily on television. So I've been doing other bits and pieces. And I always said to Sylvie, when Sylvie came along and we got serious, that this is a roller coaster, right? So at the time, what was I doing? Probably Price is Right. And at the time, things were great. Price is Right was going great. I was traveling all over the place, hosting big corporate events. Like, it was all good. But I said, the day this finishes, we go. We just pack up and go. I'm not sitting here waiting for the phone call. We're going to make life an adventure. And that's when we hooked up with you guys in America, right?
yeah.
So the day the Price is Right was axed, or the week leading up to it, I said, let's book that one-way ticket to LA, and we landed in LA. And I think what I've always tried to do is, I've done a lot of investing and stuff away from television, and that has given me a good buffer to ride through being the most axed man in television. So being axed, there were points in our lives where it was like, great, now we get to go away for 6 months or something like that. So, which is not the way to, it's a weird way to look at it, but I had to do it that way from a mental health perspective, I suppose.
Does that also, in giving yourself other things to think about, it gives you a nice, when you say buffer, but a buffer as well from just because it's a myopic industry, isn't it?
100%.
And everyone knows what everyone's doing, and so you're out of that. Now you're not so focused on the day-to-day stuff, but you're actually got interests, and I'm sure in the other things that you're doing. And that's real estate and things like that, isn't
Real
it?
estate,
Investments.
essentially, yeah.
So you're actually dealing with other people in the real world.
That's right. And it was, and that's really helped me through the business. And and I know, Cam, because people have been asking this of me for so long. You're not in charge of your destiny in television. There's no way.
Yeah.
I can say, I'm going to do the morning show for another 3 years, and I'm going to do the Chase for another 5 years, and I'll do a Tonight Show, then I'll do it's none of that. Mm-hmm. I've had contracts that go for 6 weeks. I've had TV show contracts that go for 6 weeks, and that's been my life. So, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
It's my life too.
No, but I know.
It's our life.
I know, and it's complicated, and people don't understand that fully, I think, because they see you know, going to the big things and doing the thing and the big launch of this and that. But it can be weeks at a time or months at a time, and when you've got the kids and the mortgage and all that, that's horrible. Mm. But you can never say, I've got mates who left school. One of my best mates, the dental technician, went to uni, became a dental technician, and that's his life. Yeah. And we're nearly 60 years old, and he'll nearly retire, a fabulous, successful dental technician. But there's no way in the world. Like, my career could have been over within a year of it starting. And I know people in the business who did get their one big break, the show didn't work, and that's that.
That was that, yeah.
That was that. So I feel very blessed. Yeah. And the only thing I can really put it down to is not talent. I think I've been a reasonable bloke. I think that's the being nice to people. Mm. You know, I haven't done anything too devious. I haven't kicked doors in or stormed out, and, you know, I've just been grateful.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you tell, like you said, you're at the telethon, you're talking to home and away actors, and I love that they're asking you, you know, about how to navigate the business. Yeah. I think that's sensational. I love that young people are curious, you know, and asking, you know, the older dudes, especially who've been a barnacle and been able to hang around, you know, for a while. What else do you tell, aside from being nice, what else do you tell them?
Well, I came through my career, and I don't know if this applies to everybody actually, but I went through a phase where I would say yes to everything. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I thought, if I can make it through the other side of this business, having done as much as I can, then I'll be a better host. Now, I'll be a better host than you, because I've done that thing that I did a show called Cash Bonanza on the Gold Coast, and it was in front of a live audience of 2,000 people. Yeah. Now, the show looked crap. It looked crap on paper, and it was crap. But I wanted to be a host that could stand in front of 2,000 people and host a TV show, because I knew a lot of TV hosts in that space at that time weren't doing that. Maybe they could, but I wanted that experience. Mm-hmm. So I was saying yes to a lot of rubbish shows, and upon reflection, I looked back and thought it was a risk, because any of them could have brought me undone. Any of them could have been the last thing that I did. Mm. You see, what's that guy's name on that shit show? He'll never work again. That could have been me. So, but what it meant was, looking back, and certainly in the process of the book, that I go, okay, all those things equaled this. Mm. You know, all those things equaled now that I can do the morning show with some degree of comfort, and even the Chase. So that's what I did. I tried everything in the business, things that people were probably saying no to. Mm. But I was lucky to survive that, I suppose. Celebrity Splash, Celebrity Dog School.
And that's been, I mean, as you say, you know, you left school early, but that's been your education, really, hasn't it? By saying
Absolutely.
Yes to all of that, and all of that knowledge is now paid off, and that ease
Absolutely.
of what you can do, channel, you know, your morning show with. So, yeah, it's amazing what life gives you, you know. It's so interesting.
Well, yeah, and that's that lemons or lemonade, you know.
Yeah.
It gives you lemons. Well, okay, make lemonade out of it.
And I'm back.
You must have come across some incredible mentors along the way, and in terms of people, I'm not going to do what he did.
Do you know what?
And I will do that as well.
Cam, that's really important. Like, I think it's one of the most important lessons that I learned early, because I was a reporter at Channel 10, Good Morning Australia. I was the entertainment reporter. It's when we were hanging out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I remember doing some of the entertainment stories where I had to interview celebrities. And I remember thinking early, tosser, asshole, you know, and just interviewing these people and going, you're nothing, you know. Yeah. And these people who are getting overnight success, and I couldn't tell you their names now because they're gone. Yeah. And I think some of the important lessons were how not to behave, how not to treat people, how not to speak to people. And I think that was some really important early lessons in that.
Yeah.
So true. You've dedicated a chapter in your book called The Bondi Boy and the Polish Goddess. I think we know who this chapter might be about. You chronicled the first time you met Sylvie on the plane, sopping wet and considering if you were going to steal the salt and pepper shakers.
Yes.
You have to read the book to understand the context of that. You write, I've always believed in fate, and how I met Sylvie kind of confirmed it for me. Sliding door moment, or a series of strange events that led me to staring down Sylvie's blouse and onto a life of endless love and wonderment. So you knew in that instant that you were smitten with her. Are you a believer in love at first sight?
I was that day.
Yeah.
I was that day. Because you've met Sylvie. She's a living doll, and I thought she was the most gorgeous woman I've ever met. The book, there's two different stories about how we met, and maybe you guys have got this. Most couples have. I've got my story, and Sylvie's got her story. My story is that she came out of the galley to serve me dinner, and she'd undone a button on her blouse. And that's my story.
And I'm sticking to it.
And I'm sticking to it. And I call that entrapment. So
That's right.
she set out to trap me, is my story. She doesn't remember it happening that way.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, hey.
Trapped you on that aeroplane.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, well, my story's been printed in a book, so my story's like
That's right.
biblical. That's my story. She doesn't remember that particular part.
The tomb
Do you
of
reckon
Larry
now,
Emdur.
did she really lose her ticket when she came to the stop at the? Was she waiting for you in that moment?
Just backing up a little bit. On the plane, I was trying to flirt with her, but she was busy looking after all the passengers, whatever, right? How dare she while I'm trying to flirt
Do
with
her
her?
job.
But I was fortunate enough to be in business class, and there's only a few seats in business class, so I got a shot at this every minute or so. So she'd walk away from me once. I'm like, okay, you got to come back in a sec to give me another coffee, so I'll have another shot. So I was trying to flirt with her a little bit, and then she was just laughing it off. And then we got off the plane, and she was racing off to catch another flight. And up ahead on the moving walkway, so she'd gone before anyone had got off, any of the passengers got off. And up ahead on the moving walkway, I could see people jumping off the moving walkway. And there was Sylvie crouching down at the end of the moving walkway, looking for something in her bag. Right? Now, she could have done that anywhere in the airport. I maintain she did it directly in front of me to trap me. That's what I reckon. Does it sound like that to you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just getting on a walkway and bending down to pick up something out of your bag.
And then when I got to the end of the walkway, she stood up and went, I found it. I was like, oh, come on.
Come on. I reckon that could definitely be a tool that I would have used if I was hoping that someone was getting off the plane and I knew that they were coming
like
up behind
stalling.
me. Yeah, you put yourself in the pathway of someone that you hope is gonna see you.
See, I'm going to tell her you said that.
Yeah, I quite like that. I think that's a good tool that she's come up with. But if she wants to maintain it was all innocent, then I'm going to go with Sylvie as well.
Yeah.
Girl code.
So you've been married for how many years?
28.
28 years.
Yeah.
A couple of kids. Al's talking about grandchildren, but that's not happening yet.
No, not yet.
You've been hosting your morning show for
15 years.
15 years. You just ticked over that, haven't you? That's just a recent
And that's
one.
a long time in TV.
Yeah.
We came on for a 3-month trial, and that had been my life. My life was doing the pilots and doing short run shows. So when they said 3 to 6 months, I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's fine with me. Then we'll go away again.
Yeah.
And here we are 15 years later.
Incredible run.
And it really, I think, and it's thank you to everyone who's watched the show, but it's been number one for 15 years, which is extraordinary in television. And we're so grateful to be part of that. But it's that's a long time in TV. But it's such a great show. So.
And of course you're having great success with The Chase as well. What's next? You got the book out. Is there?
I think retirement is next.
Yeah,
I think.
Do you see it going further? I mean, what I was going to ask you as well is on the morning show. We've both been on there several times, and it's always a weird thing as a guest. You go in there and it's like, God, that's over so quickly.
Yeah.
We were there for 5 minutes. We didn't even get into it. Do you ever long to have a longer form type of show where you can get more in depth, like a filmed podcast, say?
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, I have actually enjoyed this part of the book tour, like the longer form chats, and I do, and I love a chat. I love it. Yeah, I love a chat.
No.
So, no, I have been thinking about the podcast world and that sort of stuff. But I do enjoy that. Yes, some of the morning show things are quick, right?
Yeah.
And it depends if there's breaking news on the day. Some of them are really quick. Yeah. But also, that's what keeps it interesting as well.
Absolutely.
And then there are some guests where you go, I wish this could be just a minute instead of 5 minutes. But not you guys.
Have you ticked all your boxes?
I think so. Years ago, if you asked me, years and years ago. I have a love of that Tonight Show.
Yeah.
The Hey Hey. I used to love being involved in the Hey Hey.
You hosted that several times, didn't you?
Yeah. And Tonight Live with Steve Vizard, I hosted that a few times.
Yep.
IMT. So I had a love of that. But I've passed that now. That was a different time.
I would love to see though a late show in Australia again. I know they have a lot in America, but I think we don't have one.
No.
Not one.
It's news orientated, isn't it? It's news or a quiz kind of thing that we seem to do in Australia.
Paying attention. I love that show.
Yeah,
it's a great show.
Yeah.
But yeah, something, a combination of that and a late show. I just think that would be really good. We've got a lot of talent in Australia and interesting people to be interviewed, and you do get longer with them in that way.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Is that that's the great thing about this job that we do here, that we actually get 45 to an hour with someone and just this is the best. Then we're finding out the good stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of good stuff, there's another story that I read from your book that I really, really loved, and I want you to expand on it and tell us, because it's so beautiful. You did something that was just so kind and lovely when you found some old letters from an ex-girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
What made you do that?
What did you do? Because I didn't read this bit.
Yeah, no.
So what happened was this. We were moving house and I found this old, it was probably just a shoebox, just a bit bigger than a shoebox. And it was all taped up but the tape had rotted away, and it was when it was 2 moves ago actually. So basically it had been something that I had in my bachelor pad, in the attic, in my bachelor pad at Bondi. I think you've been there. And then it moved to our family home where Sylvie came along. We got married, moved to the family home up the road. It would have gone in the storage garage there, and then we moved again and then packed it away again. So I hadn't seen this thing for 30 years essentially. And then we were packing up the big family house because the kids had moved out. We're moving into town. I saw this box and I thought, what is that? And I opened it up, and it was basically a box full of love letters when people used to write letters.
Beautiful.
And it was from my first girlfriend, and her name's Tanya, and she was a prolific letter writer. Now, remember what we were saying at the start, I can't read. I haven't read a book. I have zero comprehension skills. And reading.
That's not true.
No, mate, it's true. It's true.
You can't do a TV show for 15 years without comprehension skills.
Absolutely can.
Come on.
No, you absolutely can, because I can be in the moment. But anyway, back then when I was 15 or 16, these 4-page handwritten letters, I'm like, so I would throw these in this shoebox, I suppose, with some old pics and stuff, and it just moved around with me. And I sat down in this garage surrounded by all these packing boxes, and I opened it up and I started reading these letters, and they were so beautiful. They were so beautiful. And it was young love. It was young love. And I was a surfer, like she'd give me these letters sealed with a lipstick kiss and
Probably some perfume on there.
It was.
At one point.
And you know what I would have done, Cam? I was an asshole, and I would have chucked them in this box.
Yeah, right.
And so many of them, they was all stuck down and they weren't open.
Yeah, right.
So I hadn't read them, and I was just, I don't think I was a bad person, but I wasn't a reader, and I wasn't a lovey-dovey guy. I was just a surfer, and I had this gorgeous girlfriend, and there was this box full of these letters. And I was now when was this? I guess I was 50, and I'm sitting in my garage crying like a baby.
Oh, mate.
Reading these letters. And they were, not because they were sad, they were beautiful. They were beautiful letters about how she felt about me and how we felt together and how we made each other feel. And I was like, my God, I was a mess. I'm sitting in the garage crying. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I called a friend and got her number, and I rang Tanya, and I said, she was overseas, and I left a message, and she called back, and we haven't spoken for a long time. And she called back and said, "Hey, lads, Tan." I said, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I burst into tears. I was talking to her on the phone. I said, "Tan, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I was an asshole, and it's not who I am, but I would never respond. I never wrote her a letter back.
Yeah, right.
Because it wasn't what I was doing. And I just said, I just want to apologise. I don't know why I didn't engage with this, and I've missed all these beautiful things that you've said, and I'm so glad I found this box, and blah, blah. And in between the tears, like I'm crying, I'm talking to her. And her response was divine. She said, it was young love, Laz. Guys never understand young love. I'm like, I'm glad you said that. But, it was a silly conversation to have so many years later, but it was really important, and I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I called it, because of all the things in the book, it was like, if you talk about regrets, and not regrets that, we weren't bad boyfriend and girlfriend. We were just silly kids, really. But I'm glad I said sorry to her for being an arsehole.
I wonder what that was like for her, like if that was some form of healing, because it's so true, like you are young and she would have been young too, but I wonder if that was, I'm sure it would have been really lovely to have had an ex-boyfriend apologise for that many years later, a heartfelt apology, but yeah, I wonder what that was like for her.
I feel like this is the bit where you say she's on the line now. She's called in.
Tanya, come on.
Actually,
tell us how you feel.
Yeah, okay. No, she's gone. She hung up. She didn't realise that you actually hadn't opened some of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfume smudge. The book is happy as Larry Emdur. It's been a pleasure to know you all these years. Wish we'd spent more time together. I always felt like that. Like when you arrived on our doorstep back in LA.
Yeah.
And then there was another time you were hosting from, I think, Disneyland.
That's right.
You were hosting, and I caught up with you there, and you were busy at work, and I'm all doing the orbit around, probably bending over to pull something out of a bag so you would bump into me and, we're here. But I always felt very, and same, I can speak with for Lockie as well, and Andrew, we've always, because we came up at the same time, and so you having written this book, I've started a book probably 6 or 7 times.
Yeah, right.
And pulled it out the other day because Millsy's put one out as well. Yes, and I see you've both had Shane Jakey write a comment on the back of it. He's done Millsy's as well.
Oh,
so
like
if I do mine, I'll have to send it to Shane as well. But really proud of you because it's like I watched Elle go through her process writing her book. Yeah. And you clearly researched different things. She's researching menopause and you're doing your life. But just what a great achievement to have done it. And hats off to you.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. And similarly, we feel like we've always been in your orbit, of course we should catch up more now.
And we always talk about it.
Yeah. No, but it's what I have found, and I touch on it in the book, is real friends in this business are hard to find. People that you would actually say, he's a great mate, or we get on really well and have done. And interestingly enough for us too, because we're in the same space, so we're probably, wanting to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But in and out of that, and over decades and decades, we have stayed good mates. And and what's nice about that is to be able to sit here now and have this conversation. Mate, we appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Normally when there's couples, obviously Sylvie's not here, we do the 2-minute shower. But so we can invite you into our shower.
Yeah, we can do a threesome.
Okay, this sounds a bit weird, but anyway.
Well, basically, it's just to keep your answers short, mate.
Yeah, that's right.
As much as we love your long answers too, mind you.
Yeah. So here we go. You've interviewed a lot of people.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that stands out? Anyone or any interview that stands out?
Robin Williams.
Wow.
Is that answer short enough?
Yeah. But now I want to know what.
Is there anyone that you would still love to meet?
Yeah.
Oh, I reckon Prince Harry would be a great chat.
Oh, okay.
Or at least have a game of billiards with him in Vegas.
Yeah, we want the two of them in separate bathrooms.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Right?
Would be good, wouldn't it?
That'd be good.
That'd be big. That'd be a big deal.
Be us and
I mean, Larry was big, but that's just
that's bigger.
a tiny bit bigger.
Okay. What the world needs more of is?
Simplicity, simple relationships, simple things that make you happy. Not all the complexities, all the technology and all the stuff we rely on now for happiness and fulfillment. The book's about going to the beach with your family and having fish and chips on the sand, and I remember how happy that made me.
Yeah, totally. Is there a time in your life that you would like to revisit?
No, I don't think so. No, there's nowhere I'd like to spend more time than now, I don't think.
Yeah, great.
Kids are great. Sylvie's great. She's still talking to me. She's works great. No, I think no is the answer. I think moving forward, like I'm really interested to see what the next few years holds.
Yeah, great.
Describe yourself in one word.
TV wanker? Is it? It's two words technically.
TV's not really a word, though, is it? So it's kind of, I don't know what that is. We'll just stay with wanker.
We'll just go with wanker. Yeah, even off TV. Wanker.
It's a good thing to be. I can relate to that.
All right. Are we settling with wanker?
Yeah,
is
wanker.
That where we're
That's
going?
it.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll put wanker. Ding, ding.
And because this is a relationship podcast, one word to describe Sylvie.
Magical.
Oh.
Magical. Yeah.
That'll get back.
Good.
By the way.
I hope it does.
Yeah.
It's been
I hope
sent
it does.
now in a watch.
Yeah.
Mate, thanks for being here. We've been chasing you for a while, and it's great to have you here.
Thanks, guys.
And the book is Happy As Larry Emdur.
So
Awesome.
good.
Thanks.
So
Good on you,
good.
mate.
Thanks for coming, Larry. What a great guy.
He's a great guy. He hasn't changed.
No, exactly. 40 years in the business, 40 years in any business actually is amazing, but to stay in the entertainment industry and be relevant for 40 years is something really special. Because when we were having that discussion before about, this industry and how up and down it is, and we were talking about this the other day, that, it's not like you do a job and it guarantees you that you can keep stepping up the ladder. Like you can be at the top of the ladder one day and at the bottom of the ladder the next, and then you're in the middle for a little bit, then you're down the bottom again. Like there's no rhyme or reason to it, and it's, but to stay in it is just great.
Yeah, and it's because he's got a genuine curiosity and friendliness about him. I mean, when you're just talking, I feel like I got post-traumatic stress disorder from going up and down and sitting in audition rooms and looking at the other guys in the audition rooms and knowing that they've been lead roles on series and they've been number one on call sheets and all that sort of stuff. And here we are, you're back at step one again. It's a brutal game. And for him to have retained his I say retained, his sense of humour is one of the things that is so appealing. And if you follow him on Instagram, follow Larry Emdur on Instagram.
So funny.
He's just on fire. And I know he's not asking anybody to do that for him. That's just him fart-assing around and
That's right.
and having
That's
fun.
right.
And because of his job, because of the morning show and doing the chase and all that sort of stuff, he gets put in situations that are quite hilarious.
The book again is Larry Emdur, Happy As, and it's just full of delightful anecdotes and stories. So grab yourself a copy.
Like we did.
That's right.
Yep. And we'll catch up with you next time on Separate Bathrooms.
Thanks for listening.